In part one of my Why NFL QBs Suck, I briefly touched on the college game, scheme, coaching, and above all, the transfer portal. The lack of NFL coaching and this new era of coaching, it's a big question mark, and NFL offensive schemes. And I put a huge blame on the schemes and the coaching. Today, in part two, I'm going to talk about what, in my opinion, is the most destructive component responsible for NFL QB play. This is QB Unfiltered, my take, drama, nonsense, and bullshit.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you want to play tough and want to hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up.
All right, guys, buckle up. This video may be upsetting to some of you, may be triggering to others, but I'm going to go outside of the X's and O's today and talk about a couple of things that have nothing to do with quarterbacks and what they do when the ball is snapped. I'm going to discuss the new era, the new-aged quarterback who is probably starting for your favorite NFL team. And I have to lay this out here on the onset. This is not a blanket analysis of the entire landscape for NFL quarterbacks. There are some dudes out there that are getting it done, playing the position the way it should be played. And, in most cases, their team's success shows that. But in 2025/2026, the good quarterbacks are few and far between. So in today's show, I'm going to talk about the media, the mainstream sports media and YouTube pontificators and gurus, and what I feel is their huge role in where we are with the current NFL quarterback. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, coach, how in the hell do talking heads have any effect on quarterback play? And hopefully I'll be able to prove my points, but I will say this. When your anchors, when your hosts, when your analysts sit in front of a camera and have zero practical experience playing the game or playing the position of quarterback, have zero knowledge about what they're talking about, they have to fill their airspace with something. And it's not X's and O's and it's not QB knowledge. And their go-to playbook in the last couple of years is the drama, nonsense, and bullshit, where they have turned the NFL and the quarterback position into MTV, reality TV, the Real Housewives stuff. And that, guys, is both unbelievable and really destructive. And then you add the one thing that sports has always kept at bay, and that was keeping the freaking idiotic, insane world of politics out of the locker room, out of the game, off the court, and out of the mainstream sports media. And it's not just Republican and Democrat politics, but it is the moronic identity politics that has creeped into discussions on quarterback play. And that's a sad, sad state of affairs. And behind the curtain of these mainstream media platforms, you have a business model that isn't about talking sports. It isn't about promoting the game. It isn't about educating the audience. It's about pushing narratives, creating drama, getting clicks and views, and to be seen. Attention getting behavior. And what this toxic brand of mainstream sports media and YouTube pontificators has done is it's pushed football fans to think a certain way. And it's also pushed a lot of other football fans out the door where they no longer watch the game. Okay, as always, please like and share this video out. It really helps my channel. I currently need help, guys. I am in the YouTube doghouse. I'll probably be in the doghouse for saying that, but got copyright dinged a couple of weeks ago twice, and my videos just haven't been pushed out for anybody to see. So if you do stumble onto this or you do view it, give it a like. Pass the word to your buddies. If you enjoy my content and my take on quarterback play, then subscribe to the channel QB Unfiltered. As always, I greatly appreciate the support. Okay, now before we jump into this video, I got to say this. As a former player, former quarterback, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, and head coach, I'm not alone when I say that in my playing and coaching career, I didn't give a damn what color skin my quarterback had or my teammates, black, white, or green. As far as quarterbacks go, it just doesn't matter. You can either play or you can't play. End of story. And that is it. And that is all. So when this identity politics, when this race card crap started to creep into football with the media and specifically into the quarterback position, and it became a narrative, a talking point, a cult in a lot of instances, a division of camps. That is when sports and the quarterback position became drama, nonsense, and bullshit. And it took the QB position into a different realm. So if you're a Ryan Clark fan or a Cam Newton fan or a Stephen A. Smith fan, you may want to click off now. Okay, so I'm not saying anything that you guys don't know, but in football, at the quarterback position, the guy that gives his team and his offense the best chance to win, the guy that moves the offense the best and scores touchdowns, that's the guy that plays. End of story. It was all about meritocracy. The best guy played, the best guys got the coaching job, etc., which is the way it should be. A lot of that has changed, and I think it's one of the most destructive forces ruining sports and one of the most destructive forces ruining the QB position. Now, I'll touch on this more as we go in this video, but since the quarterback position has always been the most highly visible, highly publicized, and highly scrutinized, the biggest topic of any football team of any season, since the mainstream sports media has been infected with these dipshits and morons who are pushing narratives and working the grift, it only makes sense that the way QBs are presented now and discussed has moved the Overton window. You know, I heard some guy talk about the Overton window the other day, and I had never heard that term before, but this is what that means. It's the spectrum of ideas or public policy and social issues considered acceptable by the general public at a given time, which basically means this. If the mainstream sports media is pushing certain narratives and discussing the quarterback position in certain ways, if they do it enough and beat you over the head with it, then you begin to believe what they're saying, and it changes the way that you think about the way the position should be played and has been played forever and ever. So with that being said, here are a few schools of thought, a few messages being pushed, some topics used for grifting, and theories being spewed by today's talking heads in regards to QB play. Number one, the QB position has changed because the requirements have changed from a stand in the pocket and execute the passing game to a game that requires the QB to be mobile and athletic. And guys, that's a bunch of horse shit. Okay, it doesn't matter that a lot of NFL teams rush their young quarterbacks into playing time way too early, which ends up causing really bad habits and more dangerous and detrimental to the quarterbacks as it destroys them mentally. And a lot of these guys can't recover. Now, that doesn't matter. It's not that the QBs coming into the league are poorly equipped to execute the passing game in terms of pocket management and read progressions and understanding grass and leverage and all that kind of stuff, pass protections. Nope, it's not that. And it's not that quarterbacks in the NFL aren't coached. No, it's not that either. It is that the position requires different skills, which leads me to number two. What is the reason for the different skills needed to play quarterback? Well, NFL defenses are just too good now. And that is according to that football guru, ESPN's Mina Kimes, who says that NFL defenses are just much better now. Much better than when those pesky stand in the pocket and dissect defenses, quarterbacks like Brady, Montana, Breeze, Manning, and Marino played. This is a quote from Times. They're barely throwing it downfield, talking about today's NFL quarterbacks. There's more disguise, talking about coverages. They are more athletic. The pressures are crazy. Yada, yada, yada. Those are talking points from a self-professed guru whose only qualifications in football and quarterback play was she grew up in Seattle watching the Seahawks on TV. Okay, Mina Kimes, let's talk about some of your theories here. First off, the defenses in today's NFL are so much faster. It's all relative, okay? If the defensive players are faster, which they are, makes sense that the offensive guys would be faster as well. Okay, now on to your crazy pressures. Are you talking about zone blitz? Are you talking about a four-man front where they drop one or two defensive linemen into coverage and bring one or two backers either from in the box or off the edge? Is that what we're talking about? Or are you talking about something wild like a four-man front, let's say an eagle front, where they run a 1 and a 3 plus a 6 technique twist, okay, a three-man twist, and at the same time they're bringing one of the inside linebackers? Is that what you're talking about? Crazy? Or maybe the futuristic look where to the short side of the field, they drop a stand-up 6 technique and blitz the cornerback. You know, it's all a narrative to support your line of crap about NFL quarterbacks having to be more mobile and athletic to play against today's defenses, when in fact, these dudes do need to be more mobile when they're dropping back to throw. They take a look at one receiver, pull the ball down, and bail. Or they need to be more mobile if they drop back, get knocked off platform a little bit, have to slide, shuffle, or climb. And instead of doing that, they tuck the ball, bail out, and run. Or they have to be more mobile because today's breed of offensive coordinators have them running predetermined one receiver read pass concepts. And when they drop back in the pocket, that dude is covered. They've got no other options. So they tuck the ball, bail, and run. This is all examples of that Overton window stuff. Pushing a narrative, pushing an image of today's quarterbacks to mask what is substandard or piss poor QB play. Now, in terms of those mystical and magical defensive coverages and stemming coverages and disguising and all those pressures, I'm just not seeing it. In fact, you know, I watch NFL games and I'm constantly saying to myself, holy cow, I see more creative fronts and coverage looks in college football than I ever do in the NFL. In fact, in most games that I'm watching, I can probably 98 to 99% of the time in my mind say what the front and the coverage is going to be on the snap of the ball, and 98 to 99% of the time, that is exactly what they play. In other words, NFL defenses a lot of times are lining up in a generic front with a generic defense. They might as well hold a sign up to the offense saying what they're going to play because that is what they play. And yes, there are defenses that will line up in one front and stem to another. There are defenses that will line up in one coverage look and either stem to another or on the snap, rotate it to another coverage. That does happen, Mina. And you know all of this tricky stuff that defenses are doing? It's not like offenses aren't prepared for that. Okay, there's a teaching tool that's going around the league now where coaches and quarterbacks can sit down and dissect their opponent's defense. They can get tendencies. They can get tips and tells. It's called film. And listen, if a slapdick like me can sit in my man cave and be able to tell you exactly what they're going to do on the snap of the ball based on what their pre-snap look is, front and coverage wise, don't you think these dudes that are getting paid millions and millions of dollars and are taking snaps on Sundays should be able to do the same? And unless they change the rules, which isn't a big stretch, or they allow the defense to play with 12 or 13 dudes, it's still going to be 11 on 11. And there's still only so many things you can do with your defensive personnel on the snap of the ball if you're going to play sound. But that concept is way above Mina Kimes. One last beauty from Kimes. The game, today's NFL, the game demands more physically and mentally at the QB position than it used to be. You know, I listened to a great Dan Patrick interview with Hall of Fame QB Steve Young, and Young had two quotes that really were right on the nose. He said, the NFL is and always was a sophisticated passing game for quarterbacks. That's right. And that is why Brady, Manning, and Breeze wanted to play forever, because they knew how to abuse the league and the defenses. And that is why Phillip Rivers, at 45 years old and hasn't faced a live pass rush in 4 years, can line up for the Indianapolis Colts and put up better statistical numbers than 85% of the other quarterbacks playing on that particular Sunday this season. So getting back to Mina Kimes, you know, her and all the other mainstream media dudes like her, you keep hitting your audience over the head with that type of shit, and pretty soon they're going to start believing that. All right, number 3, this is the best era of quarterback play in NFL history. Yes, that is being said and pushed. And it's either the dumbass saying that who doesn't know any better, or it's the guy that's played the position who works for a company that wants to keep his job, so he's going to say that. I have 2 examples. Going back to my gal, Mina Kimes. She says it drives her crazy when people complain that QB play sucks in today's NFL. These are just, according to her, these are just nostalgia freaks, and they see what they want to see. Okay. And here's my favorite, maybe my favorite quote of hers. We can't compare QB stats across eras anymore because guys like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, etc., they're not going to put up those yards anymore. I wonder why that is. But she continues, but they're still obviously better than those guys. Or former NFL quarterback Alex Smith, who is a huge example of what happens when you play in a QB-friendly offense and actually get coached. The difference from when he played for the San Francisco 49ers, and I don't even know if he had a quarterback coach playing for Singletary or Nolan, whoever the head coach was, and he struggled. And then he goes to Kansas City and he gets coached and he plays in a QB-friendly offense and he takes off. He was on the set of one of the pregame NFL shows, Major Network. I can't remember which one. And they were talking about the perception of bad QB play in this era. And Alex Smith looked right into the camera and said, today's era of quarterback play is the golden age of QB play in the NFL, the best we've seen. Oh, I did a show on that about 2 years ago. So I listed a whole bunch of guys that played in about a 25-year period that sort of blow holes in that statement of his. But like I said, he's working for a company that's pushing a narrative and has a business model, and that's the narrative that they're going to push. Okay, number 4, this one is pretty destructive in my opinion, and that's propping up dudes who can't be criticized. And that's an amazing place, guys, where we currently are with certain quarterbacks and certain players, and not holding certain guys to levels of criticism and accountability for bad play. By the way, as I'm recording this today, which is January 26th, it was just announced that Shedeur Sanders is an alternate for the Pro Bowl. Yes, Shedeur Sanders, the guy who played in 8 games for Cleveland this year, threw for 1,400 yards, 7 touchdown passes, 10 picks. He completed a bad, paltry 56% of his throws, and he had a really bad passer rating of 68.1. Not good. Of all the guys that could have been named as an alternate to the Pro Bowl, and believe me, there were a shitload of other guys, Shedeur Sanders was named. And that is an example of what we are talking about in this video. You know, this propping up thing of certain players and positions, I call it the Angel Reese syndrome, where for the last couple of years, amazingly, Angel Reese, who might be a good person, you know, with good traits and all that, but her basketball skills are not very good. But you can't say that, and you can't criticize her, and you cannot question her basketball ability, her shooting ability, her penchant for double dribbling and taking 4, 5, 6 steps. You can't do any of that stuff, but she's considered one of the superstars in the league. That does not help out women's basketball. Naming Shedeur Sanders to the Pro Bowl as an alternate does not help out the quarterback position in NFL football. You've had other guys that I follow and listen to. I think they know what they're talking about, that have said, you know, this is cult behavior. This is cult behavior with certain players and certain positions. And unfortunately, that extends to a few NFL QBs where you just cannot criticize their game, their attitude, their actions on and off the field, anything. And that's destructive. Okay, talking about propping quarterbacks up in this identity politics, black quarterbacks, white quarterbacks, green quarterbacks, bullshit. You know, there's a guy, Dan Orlovsky, who played in the NFL quarterback. He played for, I don't know, a number of years. He was a backup QB, but he knows what's up. Okay, he knows what's up, and he voices his opinion. Maybe timid, but he voices his opinion on these NFL shows. And just recently, he was talking about CJ Stroud's performance in the playoff game where he threw 4 picks. And Orlovsky had the gall on this panel show to say that there are 31 other quarterbacks in the NFL not named CJ Stroud that could have won that game for the Houston Texans. Can you believe that that dude had the balls to say that? As he was saying it, they had a wide shot of the studio so you could see, I think there were 5 dudes up there at the desk. As those words were coming out of his mouth, you could see the actual horror in the faces of the other guys. The hypocrisy that is floating around the mainstream sports media is just something to behold. So Orlovsky has to issue a public apology for verbally berating CJ Stroud with those comments he made. A couple things about that. Number one, when he made his public apology, he said that he was being held accountable for what he said. Held accountable by who? And why? All right. Why? And I talked about hypocrisy. That bold statement he made. And by the way, you know, I back that 100%. CJ Stroud sucked in that playoff game. He played horrible. It doesn't matter what his skin color is, black, white, or green. He sucked. Made bad decisions, bad throws, forced throws, threw balls that were, he was wishing that they would be completions. He threw a lot of balls that had no chance. 4 of them got picked. But to apologize for that, first of all, you don't apologize for anything. If you're a sports analyst, a football analyst, you're analyzing quarterbacks, you say what you got to say, and you don't apologize to anyone. Now, you talk about the hypocrisy that goes around the mainstream sports media. I'll bet you any amount of money that if my guy Cam Newton or my guy crying Ryan Clark had made that bold statement about, let's say, I don't know, Jared Goff, Josh Allen, Brock Purdy, you can bet your ass that those dudes wouldn't be making a public apology. Okay, now this is not new for Orlovsky. He's done this before, and it's really too bad, you know, but that's where we're at. And that's the sad state of affairs right now with the talking heads out there It's a sad environment that we currently live in. And man, this has got to change. Okay, with Ryan Clark, Crying Ryan, this guy really has no business sitting in front of a camera and behind a microphone talking about football anywhere except his own podcast, because his takes are usually really bad. And then his consistent use of identity politics is just embarrassing. Okay, number 5, ESPN and the clowns that they now employ. The former worldwide leader in sports, remember that, guys, is now currently the worldwide leader in the most embarrassing and pathetic garbage spewed in all of sports media. And since the QB position is the most talked about during football season, the football world has had to listen to this band of activists, dipshits, and morons who, in my opinion, have contributed more than anybody else to what is happening now with football and quarterbacks and drama, nonsense, and bullshit. And all of this stuff that these guys spew on a regular basis at ESPN, this is a business model decision by the brass at the company. And like I said, when you can't talk X's and O's, when you can't talk mechanics or anything that has to do with playing the quarterback position, you sub in something easier. And you may be asking yourself again, will coach, how do talking heads affect the play of quarterbacks in the NFL? Well, when that Overton window is moved, it not only affects people in the culture and the general public, but I think that it seeps into front offices and coaching staffs in the NFL. It's like a brain rot type deal. I mean, the thought process that some of these guys are going through. Well, maybe defenses are too fast. Maybe they are too good. Maybe we don't need quarterbacks with great passing mechanics that work the pocket, go through their progression reads, and complete balls on time. Maybe cover 2 is the boogeyman, that mysterious coverage that has locked down our passing game. And maybe, just maybe, there are so many free yards to be had out there that why not have the quarterback just run around and try to get them? And maybe at the end of the day, we can give the fans what they want. And that is the NFL version of Madden football and Xbox QB play. All right, guys, let me know what you think. Did I get it right or did I get it wrong? This is QB Unfiltered. And remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.